They create chaos,
As a matter
and
of
they
fact,
create control.
over the world headquarters in Switzerland of the World Masonic Headquarters for World Freemasonry, over the door is Ordo ab Chao, which is Latin for order out of chaos. And all Freemasons know that term, Ordo ab Chao. Order out of chaos. The concept is to create chaos, to create the problems. Then while the people are frightened to death of all the crime and everything that seems to be out of control, a riotous situation, the government then moves in with justification. In order to put down this terrible chaos, they must have full power of the military, full obedience of the people to give the government full power to do whatever they want. That's why we're having all over the world wars, riots, bloodshed, famines, all kinds of things happening around the world. It's being manipulated. It's being orchestrated, not just for Los Angeles.
It's conflict control.
Conflict control.
There's been more wars since the creation of the United Nations.
People need to wake up and discover who is running their government, what the symbols of government mean, what these emblems mean. When they see the National Coat of Arms, the flags, the emblems, the seals, the symbols, all of these things mean something. Educate yourself. Find out where it came from. That's the only hope I see for the human race, is the human race itself waking up to find.
If a prince wants to conquer a city, and the city does not want to be conquered, they would hate him. But if the prince pays criminals to kill cows, burn barns, smash windows, set things on fire, the people will panic in fear and cry out for help, and the prince will come in, get rid of the very criminals he bribed to create the problem. Nobody will know the better for it, and everyone will praise the prince as a hero. So it's good marketing. You create the need and fill it. You go around the back of the house and set it on fire, then you go around the front of the house and sell them a fire extinguisher. And they'll pay anything for it and even thank you for being there. So it's called Machiavellianism, where you create or capitalize on a crisis to consolidate control.
You are always concerned about sleeper cells. We're going to ensure that we focus on sleeper cells.
Mayor Adams taking seriously warnings from Washington that Iran could activate sleeper cells here to seek retribution for the bombings. Rebecca Weiner, NYPD Commissioner of Intelligence and Counterterrorism, tells CBS News New York her agency has been on alert for days.
We are doubling down on our efforts. We are doubling down on reaching out to partners internationally, federally, doubling down on all of the monitoring that we are doing.
This as the bombing became topic A on the campaign trail for those seeking to win a Democratic mayoral primary. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo also warning that something could happen here.
As a New Yorker, my natural instinct, former governor, former HUD secretary, New York should get ready for possible reprisal by Iran.
Georg Hegel was a German philosopher who came up with a basic system for achieving the goals of the Illuminati called the Hegelian Dialectic. This system is based on 3 steps. In step 1, a rogue government will create the problem that harms or even kills its own citizens. This deception is known as a false flag attack. In step 2, a rogue government will control the reaction to the problem which it created by typically blaming it on an enemy or some aspect of its own society over which it seeks more control. This is why the term false flag attack is so named. In step 3, a rogue government will offer the solution to the problem which it created. This solution is typically a war or a system of regulations. The solution would usually not be accepted by the public had the rogue government not created the crisis and controlled the reaction to it in the first place. A government which seeks increasing control can keep pushing society to accept its agenda by following a series of problems, reactions, and solutions which it planned all along. The significance of the Hegelian dialectic is not how evil it is, but rather how often governments choose to follow it. There has not been a major war in the 20th and 21st centuries that does not follow the Hegelian dialectic.
The Hegelian dialectic is a very subtle psychological process which can destroy conviction, crumble your conscience, and it can even eliminate every shred of opposition that might exist within you that would make you oppose the exterminating of Christian principles in society. And what is so sick about it is that it is very simple. It is a process which involves three phases, which are thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. The first phase of the Hegelian dialectic is simply presenting the thesis. A thesis is simply the ideologies or the beliefs of a group or of an individual. After this phase is completed, then phase 2 begins, which is the presentation of the antithesis. The antithesis is a completely opposite view from the beliefs or ideals presented in the thesis. This is done to confuse the thoughts of the dissenter or the target group. Then, when phase 2 is completed, phase 3 is initiated, which is the presentation of the synthesis. The synthesis is a compromise between the two radically opposed ideals or beliefs that were presented in the thesis and the antithesis, which brings about a completely new belief system. A completely new belief system which is more than readily accepted by the dissenter or the dissenting group, because it relieves the confusion that was on their mind, and unknowingly now they compromise their own belief system. This process is then repeated a number of times until the dissenter or the dissenters finally give up and accept a new belief system without any more dissent at all. And this is the process that the occult New Age movement is using to destroy Christian principles, Christian values, and to initiate in our society values that are wholly demonic and corrupt in their nature.
And we'll get into this later. The method they use is that of the Hegelian dialectic. Thesis played against antithesis leads to a synthesis. In other words, for Hegel, for history to make progress, you have to have conflict. And when you look at the key people in the order, you will find that they generate conflict. So Bush and Harriman politically are conflicting. Coffin and Buckley, although part of the same order, are in public conflicting with one another because conflict leads to the new synthesis.
The order want to accomplish in the Bolshevik Revolution?
You create opposing forces which you place in conflict. Out of conflict, you've got profit, you've got political power, and you can direct history. And if you look at the writings, for example, of the Trilateral Commission, they talk openly in the Trilateral Commission about managing conflicts, not solving conflicts, but managing conflicts. Conflict management, that's the cry.
So they got the profit, the power, and the management. Mm-hmm. Where do they want to steer history through the Bolshevik Revolution?
They wanted to set up, and they did, two opposing forces. Out of that came World War II.
Here's something you're never taught in school. Here in the good old US of A, all of your wars have been fake. I don't mean the actual part where they blow up and kill people. I'm talking about the part where we go to war in the first place. And the sad part about it is the people up at the top and their minions, the people that hang out in these think tanks and stuff, they sit around talking about this blatantly, openly, just in your face, strategizing about how they can get us into the next war. And this is actually an old video, but I think it bears being shown again. In fact, it should be shown once every 6 months or so. You should just watch it again, just to remind yourself the level that we're at in this country. So the douchebag you're about to see is from the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. This is an American think tank out of Washington, D.C. It was established in 1985, and it says the mission statement of the Institute, quote, is to advance a balanced and realistic understanding of American interests in the Middle East and to promote the policies that secure them. Not about what's right and wrong over there. It's just whatever secures the American interests over in the Middle East, and we all know what those interests are. It has nothing to do with spreading democracy or freedom or liberty. For more on that, all you have to do is look at the board of advisors and look at some of the names on here. You've got Henry Kissinger, Richard Pearl, Condoleezza Rice, George Shultz, James Woolsey. It's a fun crowd. And it doesn't matter which president you think you're voting for, it's going to change everything. People that have been part of this particular think tank have served senior positions in the administrations of every president this country has had since George H.W. Bush. Some of you may have seen this video, but again, considering the things that are going on right now, it's more relevant now than it's ever been. So we're going to go ahead and watch this, and I just want to say up front, you're going to have to make yourself resist the urge to punch your screen, because you're going to want to punch this guy. And you don't want to do that because you could cut your knuckles, break your monitor and stuff like that. You're going to want to punch him, though. Listen to what he says here.
I frankly think that crisis initiation is really tough. And it's very hard for me to see how the United States president can get us to war with Iran.
He just said that. You aren't hearing things. He literally just said, crisis initiation's tough, and how's the United States president going to get to war with Iran? Because wars don't just happen. They make the war.
Which leads me to conclude that if, in fact, compromise is not coming, that the traditional way of America gets to war is what would be best for U.S. interests.
The traditional way that America gets to war is what's best for the interests. Now, listen to what the traditional way is that America goes to war.
Some people might think that Mr. Roosevelt wanted to get us into World War II, as David mentioned. You may recall we had to wait for Pearl Harbor.
False flag.
Some people might think Mr. Wilson wanted to get us into World War I. You may recall he had to wait for the Lusitania episode.
Also a false flag.
Some people might think that Mr. Johnson wanted to send troops to Vietnam. You may recall we had to wait for the Gulf of Tonkin episode.
Total false flag.
We didn't go to war with Spain until the until the Maine exploded.
Probably also a false flag.
May I point out that Mr. Lincoln did not feel he could call out the Federal Army until Fort Sumter was attacked, which is why he ordered the commander at Fort Sumter to do exactly that thing which the South Carolinians had said would cause an attack.
Also a false flag. Do you see a pattern here?
So if, in fact, the Iranians aren't going to compromise, it would be best if somebody else started the war.
Period. If the Iranians don't compromise, it would be best if someone started this war, because that is how America goes to war. You literally have the douchebags who stand up there in these think tanks and say stuff like this. It's not even thinly veiled. There's not even a semantic argument that could be made here that he actually meant something else. He straight up said someone needs to start this war, the way that all of America's other wars have been started, with a false flag.
One can combine other means of pressure with sanctions. I mentioned that explosion on August 17th. We could step up the pressure. I mean, look, people, Iranian submarines periodically go down. Someday one of them might not come up. Who would know why?
Somebody actually laughed in the audience when he said that.
We can do a variety of things if we wish to increase the pressure. I'm not advocating that, but I'm just suggesting that this is not a either-or proposition. It's just sanctions has to succeed or other things.
He's not advocating that. He's just suggesting that you can do some things, which is basically the same as advocating it.
We are in the game of using covert means against the Iranians. We could get nastier at that.
They're in the game of doing that to everybody. This is how America goes to war. You don't know when World War III is going to break out, but when it does, you'll know why.
What we are witnessing right now playing out on the world stage is the establishment of order through chaos. So be it the war with Iran, the whole ICE raids, protests, agent provocateurs doing what they were paid to do in order to bring about this chaos that will usher in total control. Because before they can totally control every aspect of our lives, they need a reason for it. So that reason, they have to manufacture that reason. They have to create a reason for the total control. They showed you that during 9/11. That's exactly what they did with 9/11. When the towers came down, it brought about another aspect of control of our lives, and people were okay with it. Something that normally you wouldn't be okay with, you will eventually become okay with it. Why? Because they brought about chaos that shook up the whole society to the point where everybody's like, oh, do whatever you got to do so we wouldn't experience this type of chaos again. So they know what works. By they, I mean the wicked elites that run the whole show. There's a method to their madness. They stick to the program. They don't really have a lot of innovative strategies, right? They always rehash the old strategies. And in this regard, the order out of chaos, the Hegelian dialectic, it always is proven to be very effective and efficient. That's why they use it over and over again. So first they introduce a problem, people react to it, and then here comes the solution. And this is exactly what is playing out on the world stage right now. They've created a massive chaos on the war front, a whole lot of aspect of this chaos is going on all at once. People are losing their jobs. AI is taking over, right? All of that is a massive manufactured chaos that will eventually lead to the order that they will bring in, and they will be hardcore with the order right there. So here you have, this is exactly how they do it. And make no mistake, it's always the same group, cabal, cult, call it what you may, paying the criminals to create the chaos they need for their new world order, right, to come into place. Here you have Hegelian Dialectic. It says the Hegelian Dialectic, named after George Hegel, the German philosopher, is also known as thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, right? Or Ordo ab Chao, Latin for order from chaos. This is the motto of the third degree Masons, and is proven to work. This is why they use it every single time. And before we go further with this right here, quickly, let's bring out the book of 2 Corinthians, the 2nd chapter, and the 11th verse. It says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodash. Double honors to apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught us this truth and continue to teach us this truth. Peace, salutation, shalom, shalom, shalom to all your brothers and sisters out there that are of the household of faith, beginning with 144,000 mighty men of the house of Israel, down to the men, women, and children that are allotted to be delivered in these latter days, who are of the elect, and to the brothers that are pushing this gospel in all sincerity and in all honesty. To you all I say shalom, which means peace to you. And I bring this scripture out because you should not be easily deceived in these times we're living in, because there's a lot of deceptions coming on from all various angles, right? They're coming at you with all kinds of deceptive ways so they can usher in their true agenda, the NWO, right? The Great Reset, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, right? All of that. So they would do anything within their means. Like the old saying goes, the end justifies the means, right? So they will do anything to bring about the agenda, to bring it to fruition. That's why we cannot be ignorant. Let's read this again. 2 Corinthians, the 2nd chapter, and the 11th verse. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And the word Satan means adversary. Adversary of what? Well, Satan, and any individual really that is adverse to righteousness, anything good, right? You become Satan. You're adverse to the word of the Lord, you become Satan. I mean, there is the spiritual entity, Satan, and then there is the physical counterpart of Satan, right? So that's what it is going into here. We're not ignorant of Satan's devices, be it the spiritual entity Satan or the physical counterpart of Satan in the world stage right now, which are the wicked elites and the rest of the wicked Edomites that run the show, right? So we shouldn't be easily taken with all these deceptive ways. So I put together a couple of these clips to kind of like give you an idea what this whole thing is all about, right? Going back to this Hegelian dialectic, it says create the problem, control reaction, and provide solution. You see, so they create the problem by, here we read about this individual is talking about how they pay criminals to create these things, right? Coming into your agent provocateurs and things like that, right? So they create the problem, they control the reaction. How they do that? Well, through the mainstream news media. So they control how you react to this problem by feeding you what to concern yourself with through the mainstream news media, right? Then eventually they'll provide the solution to you, and the solution has always already been the agenda from the get-go. So they just need to, soften the people up in order to present them with the solution, because normally you wouldn't agree to this solution, just like what they did during 2020, 2021, right? You wouldn't let anybody just put any kind of thing inside your arm. Excuse me. So first of all, they had to create a problem. Told you there was a boogeyman out there. We are under some pandemic and all that, right? The C19er told you what's out there to get you. So for you to, and they control the reaction through mainstream news media. Told you, oh, the hospitals are overwhelmed. There's a lot of people just dropping like flies and yada, yada, yada. Come now and give us your arm so we'll put this thing inside of you, right? Which is the solution they provided. So this has always been their model, the way they operate to eventually carry out all whatever agendas that they got. Like you have here, it says, all America's wars begin with false flags, and World War III will too, right? Mainstream truth stream media, I put together all this clip right here, which is exactly what it is. They're going back to the Hegelian dialectic, or the other term the individual used, the Machiavellianism, he called it, right? So they have to create these false flags, and false flags doesn't mean people don't lose their lives. It just means that the problem was manufactured. It wasn't it didn't naturally occur, so to speak. It was manufactured, this false flag that will eventually lead you to react, which even your own reaction is not natural. They have to control your reaction, you see, and then ultimately bring about the solution to this problem, right? It goes on. I put together the clip. That's why we are at the brink of World War III. It's all part of that agenda, which in the grand scheme of things, it is all biblical prophecies. Don't forget that. So on this regard, with the wicked elites, in their mind, they think they're doing whatever they're gonna do to bring about the agenda, but this is just biblical prophecies playing out. You see? Then you have this right here. It says the Iran sleeper cells scare is another security state hoax to justify war and surveillance. And there you have it. That is that. They have to create that problem, and now they use the media to push the way you react to this problem. You see? Then eventually they'll bring in the solution, whatever that solution is. And best, like he says here, justify war and surveillance. So they want this. The surveillance. They want to surveil everything you do, but it's not going to happen just on a whim, because people will allow it to happen, for everything you do to be surveilled. So they have to bring about, to push you to be okay with it. So I mentioned earlier with 9/11, that's exactly the tactics they used in 9/11 to push all kinds of, draconian measures and legislations that till today impact the way we live, the way we operate. Here you have Jordan Maxwell and I don't know, is that Houston Mullins, or, probably him, says, order out of chaos. It says the ongoing technique they use to further and further control every aspect of our lives. And that's exactly what is happening on the world stage. This is why you cannot be ignorant of Satan's devices, because it will cost you a lot. You have to be aware of what is going on. The deception runs deep. Going back to the Satan again, this is Revelation, the 20th chapter and the 7th verse. The subheading says, Satan freed, doomed, says, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. Going back, this is where you get the term rebirth, the Renaissance period, right? Because when the Roman Empire fell, they had to come back as what we know today as the NATO and the EU, right? And they're coming back, brought about the rebirth. And that rebirth brought about, like it says here in the 8th verse, it says, and shall go out to deceive the nations. See? So that deception again. This is why you cannot be ignorant of Satan's devices. So now, all they do is to deceive. The deception is the main part of their whole tactics. Deception. See, it says, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. See, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle. And this is exactly where we are. And Gog from Gog, Magog from Gog, goes back to, this is the modern day Russians. So all what is happening now will eventually lead to a battle, all out war. And this is where we are right now. See, that is where we are right now. It is only going to escalate. It says to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. The point being to deceive the nations. So they use that tactic to deceive the nations to be okay with it. Right? Now Israel is part of that deception. Bibi Netanyahu, Bibi Milikowski, he is pushing for that. He's gave Trump congratulations to kind of like thank him for carrying out the all-out assault on the Iranians, right? Which is just poking the bear, because Russia will be going back to Ezekiel the 38th chapter, will be a guard to all these other nations that will eventually lead to World War III. But the beginning of it is the deception, the deceiving part of it, to coerce everybody to be at odds, which, like I said earlier, is all part of biblical prophecies. And here in 2 Corinthians, the 4th chapter and the 3rd verse, it says, but if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. You see? So if you don't understand the words that are being spoken to you through the Bible, which is the gospel, the word of the Lord, guess what? You are lost. You are dead from the neck up. You are comatose. See that? 4th verse, it says, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds which believe not. So you are in deep doo-doo in this deception. So this deception that you're under has clouded your mind to the point where you can't see what is right in front of you. You believe every narrative out there that they push to you, you believe it as facts. Because your minds are blinded, your spiritual antennas has been cut off. See? It says, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Hamashiach, who is the image of the Most High, shall shine unto them. You see? So this is all part of that deception to deter you from getting the word of the Lord. But the elect will and always will get the word of the Lord. So all this deception is going to lead to the, like it says here, Revelation, the 6th chapter and the 3rd verse, the second seal, war. War. It says, and when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. When they shall say peace and safety, Trump promised you peace. Right now, he is in the forefront of bringing about all-out war, right? So this is what this red horse represents. This red horse represents the Edomites, who are red in nature, because they have the translucent skin and their blood shows forth through their skin. And that doesn't necessarily mean that if you look like that, you are an Edomite, right? Because you are what your father is. This is where you get the whole Gentiles being grafted back in, because the elect of Israel, no matter what they look like, they will be grafted back in. You see, it says, going back to the matter at hand, and power was given unto him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. And this is exactly what is happening. And they do that in all kinds of ways, especially through deception. And that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. You see that? That's why they cannot wait to kill, maim, destroy, because they have this sword. Once you have a sword, what you want to do? You want to cut. You want to unalive a lot of people. Well, the sword has been given to the wicked elites, and they're doing just fine with it. You see? That's why you got to stay on your P's and Q's. Stay on your P's and Q's, which brings us here in Luke, the 21st chapter, and the 36th verse. It says, watch ye therefore, and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. And this is where we are right now. We are about to be put through all kinds of rigorous trials and tribulations, right? That will test your faith, test your character, test your integrity, to ultimately have you escape all of these things and stand before the Son of Man. And who is the Son of Man? Well, Yahushua, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, right? It will bring you to his presence to be, if you're worthy, right? And you receive that crown of life. But if you're not worthy, guess what? You will be thoroughly judged. So we got to stay on our P's and Q's. Keep a watchful eye and pray always. And with that, all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Chahakodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone. See you next time, Lord willing. Shalom. Shalom.